Hey guys, welcome to Tactics Talk, to my first map room effort right here. I just took a look at it all. I'm going to put it up. I would call it beta, but it's more of an alpha version. I have a lot of information I just sort of threw up onto the screen right there. So take a look at it. I have some ideas for how I want to organize it and make it a little bit better, but what I'm actually interested in, if you would put in the comments, what are you looking for on a map room Tactics Talk? If you got any suggestions, throw them in there. The next one will be more organized. Hopefully you like what you saw, but again, let me know, give me a little feedback while I move this from alpha into a beta. See ya. Hey yo, it's Guido. Welcome back to Tactics Talk. We got a new feature here we're calling Map Room. We're going to discuss the maps one by one, and I'm going to talk about how you play on them. We have Abbey as our first victim. This is a website called StratSketch. You can call it the maps, and it is a fantastic tool. There are many like it. This one I happen to like a lot. From the south spawn, where can you go? You can go along the 8 line up here. You can go across to the 2 line, the long way around, or potentially come up this hill, which in slow tanks can take a while to get up, and you're trying to come up to this brawling area here and here. The other option is to go towards the middle road here and potentially dive into the Abbey, or split off, come up in here into this lower town. There is also a possibility of coming up into this area about here. I do not recommend this side at all. Those are the first deployments. I will add here for TDs, which will have shots down the road. And here for Arty, and here for Arty, with the possibility of potentially Arty over here. Not as useful probably as these two. Why? Because these are more survivable. If guys get through over here or through here, you can maintain your invisibility a little longer. If I go to the 8 line around here, a couple things you need to know. This spot here and this spot here can be seen from bushes here and here. Or if you get a fast YOLO light that just simply runs forward all the way around here. So you've got to watch for those. These bushes here and here you can fire from with a reasonable expectation of not being spotted, especially if you back up the 15 meters so that they are opaque, or you cannot see through them, whatever the word is there. If you are in the bush and a scout is coming through here, or a tank with a good view range, especially as they get to about this position and about this position, you will be spotted even if you're bushed up and camoed up right there, so watch out for that. Fast lights will get past here without being seen, plus they carry their camo while moving. Fast mediums as well will be able to do these two things. Slow heavies will be caught right here, NTDs, and right here, more than likely, out in the open. Arty can shoot both those spots from nearly anywhere on the map, especially the ones that reload fast enough, which are nearly everything at this point. Other things to watch out for, this is accessible from the north, so watch out for that. I'm not sure where the boost or the climb is, but I have seen tanks up there. If it is accessible from the south, I am unaware. This middle spot can be used. It's not very effective, but you can get tanks. You will also occasionally see lights dive down here or dive down here. This is a no man's zone. Both of these are sweepable from these positions right here. You're not going to live long, but I have seen them go there, and the problem with it is it can spot you as they get down in there. What they're probably trying to do is get up to about this position so that they can then pop up here and see you moving forward. If you are going to go 8 line from the south spawn and you are a TD or you want to snipe, you need to stop somewhere around here. Take a look at your, do it better, stop somewhere around here. Take a look at your draw range circle and make sure that they are inside of it, but do not go so close that you can be spotted. So if you're up in this area, you're probably going to get spotted. If you're not going to snipe and you intend to push into here so that you can brawl in this area, be aware that this position can see down into here. In fact, it can see quite a ways down into this area right here. You're going to get shot if you lose the Abbey by sitting around right here. Also understand that this and this are accessible from both the north and the south side, and you can have lights and tanks up here. Additionally, you can have the enemy come up, climb up in here, and be sitting there to shoot down at you here. What that means is this spot is not as safe as it looks. You can be shot from multiple directions on that spot right there, as well as Artie coming in there and hitting you. This means that if you are going to push hard on the 8 line, you've got to come around and get to at least this position, and even from there you can still be shot. These buildings do give some issues to the shots, but it is shootable into that area right there. That is why the 8 line from the south is not really a great idea, except for a scout potentially here watching for anyone coming, and maybe a couple snipers sitting back on this position right there. If you insist on pushing it, you need to get back around here and up into their face, and you're probably going to find some TDs and things sitting back over here. This spot is not accessible to Artie in general because their Artie is sitting up here and here, and these rocks should give you some cover unless you get away from them. That is the 8 line from the south. Not recommended. I mentioned you could come up to here, potentially sit in this area. The only thing this position does is keep them from YOLOing up the middle, which they almost never do. It may also afford an opportunity late game when there are less guns to push in, but even as you push in, you're going to find TDs sitting up on this area here, and this is not very survivable. If they're in a really defensive position, you may find guys up here who are then going to have shots down on you as well. What does that mean? Initially, this position here is pretty useless. Don't go there. Sniper point right here to shoot down the road if the enemy attempts to come straight up through the road and get into the Abbey. A couple things to know about this point is there are some stone fences and rubble, not rubble, but stone fences and pieces of stuff all along here. If you're shooting heat, your heat is probably going to get eaten by something, some kind of obstacle there. So be careful. Also, the lower slung TDs have a little bit of trouble shooting into here. The higher your turret, the better. But that is viable. If at the beginning of the game you go to this spot, get a shot or don't get a shot, don't stay there the rest of the game. If they're attempting to push up here, stay there while you've got shots. But if you win the Abbey, there's no need for you to sit there. Go somewhere else. Go here or follow up and help these guys. If you are in a light or a medium and you want to go fight in the Abbey, I don't really recommend that, but we do need to keep it neutralized at least, or take it. Then you need to get there the fastest with the mostest. That means get there fast. So just straight up this road. If you hug the right side, right along the edge of this, you will minimize their ability to shoot you from here, because they will put TDs there as well, and you want to turn right around that corner and come up. Realize that there is a hole right about there where the enemy can come up and around and sneak in to the Abbey. So sometimes you might get surprised as you're trolling around the Abbey that someone sneaks through this little door up on the Abbey. In addition, they can get into this little crevice, and believe it or not, there is a place to shoot right through there. So if you're messing around too much in the doorway, you might get shot in the side right there. Once you do take the Abbey, you have a couple options. You can look out this spot, and you may have shots down here as they approach or as they sit in this area, especially if they push past and start heading down this road. You should have shots down on them right there. You do have shots through these holes, but they're very problematic and dangerous because TDs sitting in these spots will be able to shoot you right back. The other place you have to shoot up in the Abbey, and what it is mostly used for, at least from the south spawn, is to shoot this way through these holes here and here, and sweeping this approach to your tanks who are fighting on the 2 line. Problematic as well because this is more or less all out in the open. There are bushes here and here, and they can fire back at you, sometimes without you seeing them. If your tanks are coming up here and lighting these guys, then you may have the shot you want. But understand that it's not a free shot zone. We'll talk about the one spot on here when I get to the north spawn, which makes this much better for the north than it does for the south. That's the center. There is an option to come up into these buildings down here. This affords shots up this way, especially if the enemy is attempting to get up into the Abbey. You can support your tanks as they try to get up in the Abbey, and there's usually a scrum right there if both forces meet each other. That's why coming down here in this area is decent, but realize there are shots back this way, or potentially if they come off and head guys into the north part of the town, they can shoot you as well. If you hang out here too long, you will again find tanks here or here will have shots down into you. So if you go there, don't stay there too long, especially if there's a big fight developing in this area over here. That leaves what is probably the critical terrain on this map around this way and then coming around this way. There are two options here. If you are very slow and you come up this way and the enemy gets into the Abbey and without any contest and gets to this perch, which is what I talked about that made the north spawn better to own the Abbey, there are shots into your bum right there. Or if, God forbid, they come blazing straight through and somehow don't die, there are shots into you right there. Be aware as you're going up this ramp, because it's quite a ramp and slow tanks take a while to get up it. Watch out for these guys right here. If you don't want to chance that, you might want to come around the bottom end here. The problem with the bottom end is once you turn this corner, guys on this corner can see you and there are shots there, because you're going to probably want to turn around and come up here, and that's going to put your side armor to them. There are a couple derelict hulks sitting right here that you can use. Get hold down behind them and minimize your exposure, but realize that if they are fast heavies or mediums or even fast TDs, you may not even get around this corner right here before you get shot in the side. Once you get up to this area here, the fighting positions are this spot and this spot, and you are hold down here. You can be hold down here based on the terrain, peeking around and taking shots. You will find that the enemy is here, potentially here, and they'll be sitting right there. Places to watch out for. If the enemy is aggressive, they can come up and there is a spot right about here that they can hide in, but it is pretty exposed to this position. Additionally, they may come up along the inside of this right here, but this is fairly exposed as well. Pushing this bottom area, either for you or them, is extremely difficult. They only need a couple tanks sitting on these corners to be able to stop that whole brawl. It does need to be watched, though. You do need somebody watching there. The big fight then happens up here as you're coming around. There are rocks here, there's an alcove here, and there's an alcove here. If you're fast enough, you can push up into this alcove here, and you are protected from shots from these guys right there. You are not protected from arty, and you are not protected from shots if the enemy takes this spot, and they can shoot into you right there. Another option is to push up to this rock, but the same thing applies to arty, which can hit you more or less at will, and depending on how far you back up or maneuver, sometimes shots coming in here, but not very often, and then you're just dealing with here and here. You may also find an enemy has tucked into this spot here, and what will typically happen is you'll have an enemy here, one of your guys will be here, and then there will be a fight going on with tanks in these positions right there. Realize that they actually have two options, this higher side and this lower side, whereas you only have one option. So if you're fighting an echelon here with 3 tanks, it can be very difficult. One advantage you have over on this spot here is if you stay to the right, to the back part of it, there is a little rise right about there, and you can get slightly hold down in that area, as well as your buddy who's hanging out in this little corner right here. And actually, I said the corner, it's hard to see really. There's actually a spot right there that you can get into, right there, right there. And that is coming from the south side. So how does this play typically? You're going to have your heavies over here. Can I draw a heavy? I don't know. Yes. So you're going to have your heavies probably over here, You're going to have some lights and TDs. I want to attempt to draw those again over here, potentially spotting TDs camping. You will find some TDs there more than likely. Lights and mediums attempting to scrum down here. And there will sometimes be a bit of a battle in amongst these buildings, especially if they jump up in there and you have a fast guy try to get up in that general area as well. How do you win it from the south? You win it from the south by winning this area first, holding this area and making sure that they don't get complete control of the Abbey. Once this area over here is won, you have two options. You can either easily fall back and defend your cap from this promontory with the potential of coming around low and getting up here to spot in case they've come around from here. Or if you're winning handily, continue to truck on here and use this promontory, actually it's right about here, to look into your initial look into their cap. This promontory right here is not as good as this one as far as sweeping the cap. This one is a little more limited than up here, but you may find whether you're coming back or going forward, you're going to maybe need spotters to move up to those two spots right there in order to light the caps, whether you're defending or attacking. That decision, once you win this side right here, is going to be made by deciding what's going on this flank and what's happened in the middle. If this flank has died and the enemy is coming around up onto your cap, then just come on back. There is no reason to push towards their cap. If this flank has held, or it's pushing forward, and there's still a fight going on in the middle, I wouldn't worry about that too much. Head towards cap. Unless you think that there is a big flood coming down onto your cap. That will be informed by how many campers you still have sitting at your cap up here. If you are part of the Abbey fight, which I don't recommend, but if the situation dictates or you're in the right tank for that, once you win that, you have a decision on what to do. You can push straight into them, not recommended because of the aforementioned TD positions all over here, as well as defenders maybe coming back here, as well as potentially light tanks getting up here as well. You can see that you are in a huge crossfire pushing across that open field unless you are in a way winning situation and there's not very many tanks left and you know where they are. Not recommended. So once you win it, you can snipe from here, especially if there's still a battle going on. You can snipe from here, especially if that battle is still going on, or simply reposition back around to help these guys, reposition back around to help these guys, or even swing around to this center. There's an option as well to jump down into these buildings and start working here, looking for sniping shots into everyone who's still fighting there. Lots of options from the center. If you're over here and win, same thing as over here. If you win and the other side is winning, keep on trucking. You might as well. You can come in here and start working on their cap. If this side loses and you win, head on back to cap. There's no sense, especially if you're losing, because if you lost over here and you continue to push up to their cap, they're going to eat you alive. They're going to station guys here. They're going to come back. They're going to have hold down positions here. They've already got TDs probably sitting on the cap. The Artie's going to head back here and lob shots on you, and this is just not going to work. And that is pretty much Abbey from the south spawn. Let's move on to the north spawn. Next we will tackle the northern spawn. This map is really a mirror image kind of map, so we'll talk about the ways you can go from the north. But as you might imagine, you've got the 8 line. You've got the camping at your cap, various positions. You've got up the middle to come up the road and have the scrap for the alley. You have the split off, come down here. You have the head up the hill around this way. And of course you can then take the long way. So let's start with the 8 line on the other side. A lot of the same considerations on the 8 line. You've got the bush right there you can spot from. You are vulnerable right here to their spotters if you continue down. Once you continue down this line, if the enemy has the Abbey, they have shots on you right there. If an enemy has zinged up into this area, he may have shots on you right here as well. There's no corresponding that I am aware of scout position right here, so unlike your side who can potentially take that spot, that doesn't really exist. But you do also need to watch out for the scouts diving down in here, coming up here, or coming up here to spot you. So that is the 8 line. All of the considerations for this middle part I talked about are the same from the south and the north. Camping or taking up TD positions at the cap, there are multiple places to do that. The main one is this one right here, because it's looking for shots down as the enemy comes up the road. This one is a little bit more difficult to use than the southern one down here, just based on the way your hole is pushed up. The kind of terrain right here rises a little bit, and some of your flatter TDs without a lot of gun depression can have a hard time shooting in right to there. You've also got to worry about the stone fences and things here as well, because that will stop if you're trying to shoot heat down that way. The considerations for the middle are pretty much the same as the considerations for the middle coming from the other side. You might have shots up into here. If you stay there too long, you might start taking shots from this area over here. Heading towards the west side, very rarely are you going to get spotted going up this hill. There's not really a corresponding spot here in the Abbey that can light you like there is on this little promontory right here. However, if somebody YOLOs through, there is the potential to catch you if you're slow. There are some bushes actually right here where this side can get bushed up here, unlike on this side from the north, not really a corresponding place. Unfortunately for the guys coming from the north, if anyone is hanging out here, any of your guys hanging out there, or they come up to here, they're going to get spotted pretty easily. But you do need to at least be cognizant that if somebody comes straight forward here, one of those bushes, and somehow gets in there unlit, you may be lit up. That means they have to shoot you, which is going to light them up, or the arty is going to have to shoot you to make that worthwhile. The other way is to come around the long way. As you are approaching then to the brawling area on the 2 line, you have 2 choices unlike the southern side. You can fight from here, and you can fight from right here, looking down this alleyway. If you come around this long way on the bottom, there are some more tank hulks sitting around down here that you can use. Same considerations though as you come around this corner. If you go too wide over here, you can be shot by faster tanks that might get there. But of course you've got this corner to use right here. I talked about on the southern spawn, you can push up and try to get into this little area right here. There's some places, I think it's right here actually, that you can climb back up into, but it is not very effective. It is vulnerable to arty fire coming in there. I don't recommend that. So that means you're going to take a look down here, or you're going to take up one of these 2 positions. There is an option to push in up to this rock, or to push into this alcove right here. Realize that if the enemy wins the Abbey, you can be shot at from that area up there. If you push across here, push straight down, and you start fighting these guys, and they get stacked up, you get a couple tanks stacked up right around here. If you get stopped in this area doing the old rocking back and forth thing right here, trying to take a shot and then rocking back to reload and coming back forward, realize you can be shot through that alcove right there, right into the side, and that's no good. Realize from all sides, here, 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 is vulnerable to arty back in the back right there. So arty from here can easily pop guys sitting there. Arty from here can easily pop guys on the southern side. Has a harder time hitting these guys, but if the arty's positioned over here, it can easily get into guys working the upper part of that alleyway. Same considerations while you're fighting it for whether you win or not. If you win the critical battle, which is on the 2 line, and this side is winning, then you have the option to keep on pushing in. You can go low and come up to the ramp right there, or you can go high and hang out up here. Realize there's a big opening right there, so if you cross trying to get over to this way, you will be probably seen, especially if there's TDs hanging out right here on the edge of this. I believe it's a lighthouse right there. If you come low, you have a better chance, probability of not being spotted, unless they've got somebody hanging out up here, or there happens to be an arty sitting back, and you will have a higher likelihood of not being spotted till you get about right here as you come up on the ramp. There's a rock right here that you can use as you push into the cap, potentially, especially if they've got TDs sitting back here trying to be hold down and firing across. That's a winning situation. If you win over here and you lose over here, you probably just want to go back. Clean up any of the guys that push into here, anyone who wants to get up onto your cap. Use this promontory, come around this corner, dive down, and come up to that ramp in order to spot those guys if you need to, but make sure that you take care of your cap first. If you went middle and you win in the Abbey. You've got decisions to make from there, and it depends on what's going on here and here. But even the same thing applies to the north spawn as the south spawn. If you win here, don't go blazing straight forward, because you're going to run into TDs sitting in all these spots up here. Potentially there will be some guys sitting back here who are watching that middle road who might be able to shoot you. You may have defenders who have come back because they saw you win sitting up there, and you will die in that no man's land right there. So if you win the middle, you're looking to either shoot over here to help these guys, shoot over here to help this fight, or come off the hill, go 8 line, come up 2 line, or potentially go up the middle, depending on what is going on with the rest of the battle. If, God forbid, for some reason you went over here, if you win and this side is winning, or the battle's still going on and you're not worried about the center getting pushed through, then by all means continue down here. But realize, if you win this fight and you continue down here, whatever was left hanging out here is going to come back and defend, and they're going to be sitting here, they're going to be sitting here, they're going to be hold down maybe up here, and you're going to have all kinds of guys. As soon as you poke around this corner, they're going to be shooting at you, to include, guess what, Artie will be sitting here, or potentially have relocated over to here, and kaboom, kaboom. So probably your best bet, if you win right here, is not to push them. You can climb up into these buildings to take shots, or drop back down, come around up into the middle of the Abbey, or even just completely reposition across and join the fight over there. In a pinch, driving all the way back to defend the cap, especially if this side loses. If that side loses and you're over here, go back. Don't even bother pushing. Unless you're in a way-winning situation, which is very rare. And that is pretty much the big picture stuff on Alley. I hope this helped. If there's something you would like to see more than just that, this is the first one, so this is a work in progress. I can also probably put little symbols on there and show where heavies would go and lights would go, but I don't really believe in that too much. I feel like there's just more of a critical area to go to, and if I was to sum up Abbey's critical areas, I would say this needs to be 1. This needs to be neutralized or held or used. This needs to be held, or at least watched. Let's put it that way. So 1, 2, 3 as far as importance. How many snipers do I want on Abbey? 0. Unneeded, unrequired. There is a small argument to have somebody to watch this lane right here, but very rarely does anybody go up there. Now, this is the same thing I say for all battles or all maps. Somebody is going to camp back here. And when I say 0, I'm talking to you, the player that's listening to me. Don't be this guy. Be this guy, and if you have to, be that guy. All right, like I said, I hope that helped you out a little bit. Once again, if there's something else you'd like to see in there, specific information-wise on a map room discussion, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in, and as always, we will see you.